Hi, Rachel. How you doing? Okay, I've got your workup, but I just want to kind of address your writing here first. So I enjoy doing this. I hope following everything correctly and knowing that I definitely missed something. I had fun with it. Good. I'm glad you had. This is a great assignment. I think the relevance of this is best expressed by describing this assignment as something that's very standard in teaching and learning typography. Specifically in typography and layout classes, there's always some sort of a variation of this assignment where you're employing good higher rules of hierarchy along with good rules of alignment. And the two work kind of in concert with one another to really establish a wonderful compositional um, characteristics. And I'll go through some of those, but I just kind of want to bring your attention to a couple of areas in the class. But before I do that, let's jump right over to your composition. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to reduce the heck out of this so that it fits in the window. And the first thing we can see is that you are indeed at 15 by 20. That's great. But each of these should be 5 by 5. And they probably are, but the space between these, if you take a look at the requirements, the space between is 1 inch. So you have a 15 by 20 document with 5 by 5 designs with a 1 inch space between all 4 designs. So this space right here should be 1 inch. This space here should be 1 inch. To assist you in setting up this assignment, I created a video, and it's over in the announcements area, and specifically in the week 3 announcement. Where the heck did it go? Week 3 announcement is right here. So here's the week 3 announcement, right? Welcome to week 3. So if you jump all the way down to the bottom, this video right here, how to set up the file for assignment 3, that shows you how to set up the file. So you definitely want to take a look at that. And here's a great example of the work. But yeah, you want, so you see how these inch, 1 inch, 1 inch here. So yours, they're just really super wide. Whoops, and for some reason I think, okay, so see what I'm saying? Okay, so you want to adjust that for your final submission. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the work itself. And to do so, I'm gonna zoom in. So we've got the 4 different panels, right? And that's fantastic. So in the first panel, generally we're looking at black and white layout, which you have. Same grid for all 4 designs. It looks like, well, I'm not real sure if you've applied the grid here, and there's a couple of, well, we'll look at that in a second. Okay, and then the final design is the use of the image. Okay, so, and the first design is no contrasts in size or weight. So all hierarchy is based on grouping, right? So if we take a look at this, we'll jump in the first one, and we'll see the hierarchy is, yes, it is created by grouping. There is no contrast changes in the type itself. So everything you have established here is established simply by grouping. And you did a good job with alignment, by the way, here too. So this introduces the topic, and then this gives details on the topic. It should be noted that the viewer will see these as related. And they're all, of course, all going to be related, being that they're in the same composition. But these are a higher degree of a relationship simply because they're grouped closer together and farther from this. So this is excellent hierarchy. At this point, I want to mention your typeface, your font choice. This is called a monospace. It resembles a typewriter type, and it's very difficult to work with. I recommend you use a different font for your final iteration of this assignment. This monospace creates some issues, and the fact that each letter takes up the same width, right? So therefore, letters that are inherently spaced differently, like an I, for example, is going to have greater space around it to ensure that each is monospaced, right? That is problematic specifically in typography because you have very little control over the space between your letters. Remember all of those exercises we did on letter spacing, kerning, fire ice with the banana, and the fire and ice exercises. Well, right now we've just got such wide kerning in here, and all of these just don't seem to adhere to the rules of kerning that we had established in those exercises. So you definitely want to take a look at your kerning and tracking here. I think all the way through here, the typographic color here is very, very light. It's almost, it employs no contrast at all because of the fact that you're using a very thin stroke monospace typeface, and in conjunction with with a lack of contrast here, and it basically it points to problematic typography. I think a lot of this can be rectified if you were to select a different typeface moving forward. This, again, right here, this is a problem. There's a couple of things here that don't make a whole lot of sense. Let's look at the typography. So for example, look at the space between this is a really wide space, letter spacing. Also, we see that in other areas too, inconsistent use of dashes. So for example, spark, dash, ignition, but over here, E70, this dash has these big, huge, wide spaces on either side of it. Also, you have some things that just really don't make a lot of sense, like 0, dash, and then a big space, then 60, okay? And then you have 6.5 C space S semicolon 0, 100. So you want to make this so it makes sense. You want to establish your type so it makes sense. So 0 to 60 miles an hour. Just get that group together. Get that miles an hour closer there so this makes sense. This, I'm not even sure what 6.5 and then copyright S colon. I don't know what that means. It's really difficult to ascertain what that means. So try to use try to use words, symbols that makes sense to the viewer. So really want to try to make as much sense of this as you can. Okay, but as far as hierarchy goes, yes, good job establishing alignment and then 2 different groups based on simply on grouping. Okay, the second design should introduce 1 new height and 1 new weight. So which you have, I'm sorry, 1 new size and 1 new weight, which you have. Here's your new size and here's your new weight. That's great, right? But right now we can establish further typographic hierarchy here simply by doing this. So you have Chevy Camaro, so that's your topic, then there's your sub, right? So what you can do here is try to group these closer together from here down, okay? So this is grouped with this, and these are grouped together. You've got your height, your new scale, your new size, your new weight, and then right here, this will enhance a hierarchy by grouping these together, telling the viewer that these have a close relationship. So basically, in essence, you're telling the viewer that this has got a close relationship with this, and that these 4 are related here, but these 4 are closely related to one another. And they are, because they are indicating features of the car, right? Again, we have this weird, kind of really weird spacing and stuff, and this S that's down here on the line by itself. Definitely want to address that. And I think at this point would be a great time to mention this week 3 presentation, Structure in Space. Go through this. It talks about word spacing, and it will give you us a lot of ideas on this is really super inconsistent word spacing here. But go through this. We've got all sorts of really great tips and tricks. You definitely want to go through this entire lecture. It's pretty long, but it's well worth it. Okay, let's jump over to the third design is multiple contrasts and weight and scale. But I don't see multiple contrasts in weight and scale here. Right now, I don't see a whole lot of difference between the second and the third. As a matter of fact, they're basically pretty much identical. You definitely, I just noticed an issue here. You've got, you need, in order for this exercise to work, you have to use identical typography. I'm sorry, the words should be identical. And the reason I say that is because this says engine manufacturer, and this just says manufacturer. So you've got to get that type to be very consistent. At any rate, this is asking for multiple contrasts in weight and scale. Right now, we don't have that. We just have 1 new weight and 1 new scale. So again, this is the same as this. So what you want to do here is introduce multiple weights, multiple scales. Okay, so you can get creative here. So and again, you can take a look at this example here for multiple weights and multiple scales. This is in the announcement area as well. And then in the fourth design, we want multiple contrasts in weight and scale, and a cropped image of the car bleeding in at least 2 places. So the car is bleeding in 2 places. That's excellent, right? You might want to crop this image out, though. It says cropped, so you might want to take that complete background out of there and just have the image bleeding off the bottom there and off the side. That's what it means by a cropped image. Okay, so multiple weights and multiple scales in this, and we do have multiple weights and multiple scales. The one thing I'm seeing here is I think this is done pretty well, but the only thing my only issue here is these little arrows. I'm not real sure what they are. And again, we have this really strange configuration, typographic configuration based on that monotype, that monospace type typeface that you have. One of the things that's happening here is that this F70 14 wheels, I don't know what that is, and that is real. It's almost hidden in there, right over the car. So you definitely want to address that E70 14 wheels. It's not visible. You want to get that grouped here with the other features of the car. Okay, so yeah, it's a good start. It's a good start. I think the main thing here is to choose a different typeface. I think you're going to find this exercise to be much more straightforward if you use something that's not a monospace typeface. All right, great job. Hey, if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any clarifications needed, but I would like to see those recommendations employed in your final submission this week. All right, great job. Thank you very much.